I and Hai used to be a couple admired by many. We loved each other for 4 years before getting married, overcoming the struggles of our youth together. When we first got married, I truly believed I was a lucky woman. Hai was an ambitious man, always telling me that he would build a bright future for both of us. "You don't have to worry about anything," he often said. "I will take care of you and our family." I believed in that. I believed that we were a team, that we would hold hands and face every challenge in life together. But I was too naive. 2 years after our wedding, our life began to change. I worked at a large financial company, earning a stable salary. I also had my own job, but I always prioritized our family over my career. Every morning, I woke up early to prepare his breakfast. I took care of every meal, every piece of clothing he wore. When he came home after a long day, I always listened to him, always encouraged him. But then disaster struck. Hai's company ran into financial trouble, and after a wave of layoffs, he lost his job. I still remember that day clearly. He came home, said nothing, and just sat silently on the sofa, his eyes empty. "I got fired." I held his hand tightly. "It's okay, you'll find another job. I believe in you." But my words didn't seem to help at all. In the days that followed, Hai sank into self-doubt and frustration. At first, I tried my best to encourage him, to help him search for new opportunities. But he began to reject every piece of advice, every effort I made to support him. Gradually, Hai was no longer the man I once loved. He became irritable, impatient with everything. The sweet conversations we used to have turned into long sighs of exhaustion. When I asked if he wanted to apply for a new job, he coldly replied, "Do you think I don't want to work? Do you think I'm not trying?" I didn't blame him. I understood that failure could make a man feel like he had lost his worth. But what hurt me the most was that he started blaming me. "Why don't you get a better job? Why aren't you working harder to support me? Aren't you just doing simple jobs anyway?" Those words hurt more than anything else. I had done everything to keep our family together. I worked, I took care of him, I carried the financial burden while he was unemployed. But instead of being grateful, he belittled everything I did. Slowly, I realized I was no longer important in his eyes. I kept thinking things would get better. I thought that if I was patient, if I continued to love him, I would change. But I was too naive. One night, I accidentally saw his phone light up. A message from another woman. "Don't think too much, I'll be here for you." I felt my heart shatter. I confronted him that very night. "Who is she?" I held up his phone in front of him. He showed no remorse. He did not apologize. He just looked at me with a coldness I had never seen before. "I cannot live with a wife like you anymore." I stood frozen. "A wife like me?" My voice trembled. What did I do wrong? He stood up and looked at me with disappointment. "You are not helping me. You are not the woman I need." At that moment I understood. It was not that he hated me. It was not that I had done anything wrong. He just wanted to escape responsibility, to find someone else to blame for his failures. And the easiest way to do that was to abandon me. The next morning, Hai packed his things and left. No apologies. No hesitation. I stood in the empty house where laughter had once filled the rooms. All that was left was me and the pain. I could have broken down. I could have let the pain consume me. But at that moment I made a decision. I would not let this destroy me. I thought I could not live without him. He believed I would always be the fragile woman who depended on her husband. But he was wrong, and I would prove it. By becoming the strongest version of myself. After Hai left, I felt like I had fallen into a deep abyss. Every morning I woke up looking at the empty space on the bed where he used to sleep, only to be reminded that he had left me behind. The house felt emptier than ever. The meals I once carefully prepared no longer had anyone to share them with. The movies we used to watch together now played on the screen while I sat alone, tears silently streaming down my face. I had spent so many years taking care of our family, supporting Hai, and prioritizing his life over my own. And what was my reward? I was abandoned when I needed him the most. At night, I lay awake haunted by the last words he said before he left. "You are not helping me. You are not the woman I need." Those words echoed in my mind, making me question my own worth. Was I really useless? Did I really have no value without him? But then in the depths of my despair, a thought suddenly surfaced. I had sacrificed everything for Hai, and he had walked away without a second thought. So why should I waste another moment mourning a man like that? I decided to stand up and rebuild my life. I needed money to survive. I could not stay trapped in grief forever. I started looking for a new job. But after years of working in supporting roles to take care of our home, I realized that I had little to offer in the eyes of employers. Who would want to hire a woman who had spent so many years focused on family instead of career growth? Thinking about it made me resent my past even more. I could not keep living like this. I decided to create my own path. I had always loved fashion but never had the chance to pursue it. I once told me, "Business is not for you. Just stick to something simple." Today, I will prove him wrong. I started by selling clothes online. I researched the market, found quality suppliers, and used the last of my savings to purchase my first batch of products. In the beginning, I took my own product photos, packed the orders myself, and personally delivered them to customers. During the day, I worked nonstop. At night, I studied marketing, sales strategies, and how to run a small business. I once thought that no one would care about a brand as new as mine. But then the first order came in, then the second, then the third. And soon, I no longer had enough time to handle everything on my own. 3 months later, my revenue reached 50 million dong per month. 6 months later, I hired my first employee. 1 year later, I opened my own store. My brand gradually gained recognition. I was no longer just selling clothes. I started designing them, expanding into premium product lines. From a woman who was once underestimated and abandoned in heartbreak, I became a true entrepreneur. I was no longer the girl who cried herself to sleep over a man who did not deserve her. I was no longer the woman who feared being alone. Now, I was strong, independent, and in full control of my own life. One day, while working in my office, my assistant walked in with an uneasy expression. "Ma'am, there's a man here to see you. He says he is your ex-husband." I looked up. "Hi." My heart no longer ached when I heard his name. I simply smirked and nodded. "Let him in." The door opened, and Hai stepped inside. But this time, I was no longer the small, fragile woman who once begged him to stay. I was the woman he had lost forever. Hai walked into my office, but the man standing before me was no longer the arrogant husband I once knew. He looked thinner, his face worn, his clothes no longer polished like before. The confidence that once filled his eyes had been replaced with regret and disappointment. I looked at him from behind my desk, feeling a strange sense of detachment. The day he left, I had been so devastated that I thought I could not survive without him. Today, he was the one coming to me. He sat down, silent for a long moment before speaking. "I heard you've been very successful." I simply nodded. "You started your own company, right?" "I never expected." I glanced around my office, clearly uncomfortable. I gave him a slight smile. "You never expected a woman like me to accomplish this." He hesitated. "I didn't mean it that way. I just never thought you were this strong." I crossed my arms, looking at him directly. "What do you want, Hai?" He lowered his head, his voice barely above a whisper. "I just wanted to talk. I wanted to apologize." Hai admitted that after leaving me, he got involved with another woman, someone he thought would help him rebuild his life. But in reality, she was only with him for his money, not for love. When Hai could no longer support her financially, she left him too, abandoning him in debt. He lost his job, his money, and everything he once prided himself on. And then he heard that I had become a successful businesswoman, that I had built a stable career, something he never believed I was capable of doing. "I was wrong," Hai said, his voice trembling. "I didn't know you were this strong. I was a fool to leave you." I said nothing, only looking at him with a calm expression. "Can you forgive me?" I remained silent, letting the question linger in the air. 6 months ago, if he had said these words, I might have cried. I might have run into his arms, begging him to come back. But today, I felt nothing. Hai did not regret hurting me. He only regretted that I had thrived without him. I stood up slowly and walked toward him. "You know, Hai, the day you left, I thought I couldn't live without you." He looked up, a flicker of hope in his eyes. But now I realize that I never needed you at all. His face darkened. What? What are you saying? I smiled faintly. Did you come here hoping for forgiveness? Or did you come here hoping for pity? I was speechless. I picked up my handbag, ready to leave. Before stepping out the door, I turned back to look at him one last time. You had your chance, but you threw it away. And with that, I walked out of the room, leaving behind the man who had once broken me, now drowning in his own regrets. The people who abandon you in your weakest moments do not deserve to be there for your success. I did not return because he loved me. He returned because he realized I had succeeded without him. The best revenge is success. I did not need to lower myself to take revenge on him. I just needed to keep growing, and life made sure he learned his lesson. You don't need anyone to be strong. I once thought I couldn't survive without Hai. But when he left, I realized that my happiness was something I could create for myself. What do you think? If you were me, would you have forgiven Hai? Have you ever been underestimated, only to prove them wrong? Do you believe karma always comes at the right time? Share your thoughts in the comments.